It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when I received the phone call that would send ripples through the calm surface of our lives. You'd think, after all these years, I'd be used to it. But, truth be told, I never really was. My name is Will Hayes, and I've always been the dependable one, the rock in our family. That's what my wife, Claire, always tells me. Anyway, the call came from David, my younger brother, who always seemed to be in the middle of some kind of crisis. David was one of those people who always had good intentions but couldn't seem to make anything stick. I loved him, of course. He was my brother, and family was everything to me. But there was always this lingering feeling, a sort of weight on my shoulders, knowing that I would have to pick up the pieces of his life, piece by piece, every time things went south. Will, it's about Samantha. David's voice crackled over the line. His words had an edge to them, the kind that made me sit up straighter, the kind that told me this wasn't just another of David's usual complaints. You need to know what's been going on. I felt the muscles in my neck tighten. Samantha, my daughter, the one person in this world I couldn't say no to, at least not until recently. What's going on? I asked, though I already knew the answer. She'd been asking for money again. Or maybe it was something worse this time. She's talking about selling the house, David said, his words hitting me like a sucker punch. I froze. What? Selling the house? He repeated. She wants to sell it. Will says she needs the money now. Not when you're gone, but right now. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of the news sinking in. I had built this house from the ground up. It was more than just bricks and wood. It was the culmination of everything Claire and I had worked for. The place where we had raised our children, where we had weathered the storms of life together. And now, Samantha, my only daughter, the one I had sacrificed everything for, was ready to sell it for what? A quick fix. I couldn't wrap my head around it. You're sure? I asked, my voice strained. She really said that? David sighed, and I could hear the exhaustion in his breath. Yeah, well, she's been talking about it for weeks. I think Peter's been putting ideas in her head. Peter, her husband. The guy who never seemed to have a job. Who lived off whatever Samantha could scrape together. Whether it was her paycheck, her credit cards, or, lately, our family's resources. I never trusted Peter. He had a way of influencing Samantha, of getting her to do things that didn't make sense. Things that always seemed to benefit him in the end. I'll talk to her, I said, my voice hardening. This ends now. Asterisk. The next morning, I called Samantha. I wasn't sure what to expect. I had tried to have conversations with her before, tried to guide her, but it always seemed to end the same way. Her tears, her guilt trips, her promises that this time would be different. Every time I gave in to the pressure, the manipulation, Dad. Samantha's voice came through the phone, soft and hesitant. "How's everything?" I paused for a moment, taking a breath. "We need to talk, Sam, about the house." There was a long silence on the other end, and I could practically hear the gears turning in her head. "What about it?" she asked, trying to sound casual, but failing miserably. "Don't play games with me, Samantha. I know what you're planning." There was another long pause before she spoke, her voice faltering. "I don't know what you're talking about, Dad. I'm just trying to take care of things, you know? Peter and we've been struggling. The house could give us the money we need to start fresh. Struggling," I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "You're not struggling, Samantha. Now you want to sell everything that matters to us because of your poor choices." She was quiet for a moment. "Dad, you don't understand. We've been doing everything we can, but we're drowning in debt. Peter's been trying, but don't give me that," I snapped, my voice rising. "I've bailed you out before, Sam. I've covered your bills, your debts, your mistakes, time and time again. But this is too much. I'm not going to let you sell the house. It's not just yours to take." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. "You don't get it, Dad. You have so much, and I have nothing. I've worked so hard, and you never give me anything. Not like you do for David. Why can't you just help me? Why can't you just give me what I need?" I felt my heart twist at her words, but I couldn't let her guilt me into giving in again. "Samantha," I said, my voice steady but firm, "you don't need a handout. You need to take responsibility for your life. Peter needs to step up. I can't keep enabling this behavior." "You're being cruel," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm your daughter. You're supposed to help me." "I am helping you," I replied, my anger giving way to a deep sadness. "But I'm not going to help you destroy yourself." There was silence on the other end, and for a moment I thought the conversation was over. Then, in a voice laced with venom, she spoke again. "You'll regret this, Dad," she hissed. "You'll regret not helping me when I needed it. You'll regret not giving me the house. And when you're old and sick, don't come crawling to me for help, because I won't be there." The words hit me harder than I expected. Samantha had always known how to get under my skin, but this time it was different. This time I wasn't going to let her manipulate me. "I'm sorry, Sam," I said quietly, "but I won't be manipulated anymore. You're on your own." I hung up the phone, my hand shaking. For a moment, I sat in silence, the weight of the decision I had just made settling over me like a heavy blanket. I had just severed the last thread of control I had over my daughter, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it. Asterisk, the days that followed were tense. Samantha didn't call again, and I began to wonder if she had taken me seriously, if she had realized I wasn't going to give in. But then came the letter. It arrived on a Wednesday afternoon. A thick envelope with my name written in Samantha's handwriting. I knew immediately that it wasn't going to be good news. I opened it slowly, almost afraid of what I would find inside. And there it was, a letter neatly typed and full of the same rhetoric I had heard 1,000 times before. Dad, I can't believe you would do this to me. You always said you loved me, that you wanted to take care of me. But now you're choosing to ignore me, to turn your back on me when I need you the most. You've always treated David differently, always given him more, always taken his side. I'm your daughter, and you've abandoned me. You'll see, Dad, you'll regret this decision. And when I'm gone, you'll wish you'd made it different. Choice, love. Samantha held the letter in my hands, the anger rising in my chest. The constant need to make me feel like I owed her something, it was all right there, laid out in front of me. She had learned how to play the game too well, and I had been her pawn for far too long. I could feel Claire standing behind me, her hands resting lightly on my shoulders. What does she want now? She asked softly. I turned to her, my face tight with frustration. She's trying to guilt me into changing my mind. She thinks she can manipulate me into giving her what she wants. Claire sighed and sat down beside me. You did the right thing, Will. You can't keep giving in to her. I know, I said, rubbing my temples. But it's hard, Claire. She's my daughter. I should want to help her. But it's enabling her. I know, Claire said softly. But we've done everything we can. Now it's time for her to figure things out on her own. The weeks that followed were a blur of tension and uncertainty. I went about my daily routine, trying to push the situation with Samantha out of my mind. But every time the phone rang, my stomach dropped. Every time a letter came in the mail, I braced myself for more manipulation. But then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, something happened that made me question everything. It was a Saturday evening, and Claire and I were sitting down for dinner when the phone rang. I wasn't sure what to expect, but when I saw Samantha's name flash across the screen, I couldn't ignore it. This time, I wasn't going to avoid her. This time, I was going to face her head-on. I picked up the phone, my heart racing. Samantha, Dad, she said, her voice softer than I had expected. I need to talk to you. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, and I'm sorry. I was wrong. For a moment, I was speechless. I had never heard Samantha apologize before. Not like this. Not without strings attached. I don't know where to start, she continued. I've been so selfish. I've been using you, and I've been running away from my problems instead of facing them. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I want to change. I want to be better. Her words were a shock to my system. Could it be? Was my daughter finally realizing the damage she had done? Was she finally ready to take responsibility for her own life? I don't know what to say, Sam, I said, my voice softening. But I'm glad you're starting to see the bigger picture. But you have to understand that I can't just fix everything for you. You have to fix it yourself. There was a long silence on the other end, and I wondered if she had truly understood what I had said. I will, Dad. I promise. The next few months were filled with ups and downs. Samantha did start making changes in her life. She found a steady job, paid off some of her debts, and began to rebuild her relationship with us. But there were still moments of doubt, moments when I wondered if she had truly changed or if this was just another phase. But as time went on, I started to believe in her again. Slowly but surely, she was taking responsibility. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was no longer her crutch. She was standing on her own. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, but I knew that we were on the right path. And for the first time in a long time, I believed that Samantha was finally becoming the person I always hoped she could be.